So last week we understood and discussed about that from where the problem means suffering enters in our life. So the first we think as if the problem comes from the society. Someone insulted me, full of sorrow, someone took away the lot of wealth, lot of problems. My relationship, I lost my relationship, lot of things. We start. So what happens when we see the problems in the society that affects us? We want to change the society, and nothing happens. You are single, get married, then you are disturbed, divorce, remarry. Nothing happens. We don't want to understand it. Our mind is deeply, if I say, either attached or obsessed, that I will be happy, I will be free from fears and insecurities relating myself to the world. That is very easy to understand for a seeker, and it is very difficult for a non seeker. We cannot change the society. People who change this, who wants to change the society, they are already finished by the society. Have you ever seen that? I can give you hundreds of examples. They are finished. Because the society works at the unconscious level. It's a mob. The mob follows the habit, instinct, impulsive nature. Second problem that we face in our relationship, family. My parents died almost 30 years ago, and I keep on thinking, what, why should it happen to me? But the moment my father died, everyone said, now is the time to take it to the cremation ground. How long I can keep it in my home? So we will talk in detail later that all our relationship outside exist only at the physical level. It's a beautiful understanding. And once we understand that, it is only a physical level. I relate one woman as my honey, another woman as my daughter. See that? As my daughter, third woman as my friend, so on. What we are talking today, to go deeper, that we must have the right knowledge. What is knowledge? It is intellect. But is the intellect is open to listen, to understand? So we have to recognize the word as it is. Recognize the word and accept the people as they are. There may be troublemakers in our family, in our neighborhood, in the society. When we want to evolve, when we want to secure permanent peace and happiness, Our intellect must be clear that I cannot change anyone, but it does not mean that I should drop and stop my relationship. I will continue with the right knowledge and understanding. Second thing, then third thing comes that where the problem lies. Maybe a member in your family may have a trouble with you, but not a trouble with me. Look at it. Then how do you rate that person? There are people who have a split personality. They are wonderful to your friends and your family members. When they deal with you, you see you are crazy. I know you might have experienced, so I'm not saying that. This is what, so where is the problem? Normally, people do not have a problem with me when they discuss their problem of their spouse, their relations. I can understand. So where is the problem? It is the problem in my head. That is what is intellect, where the knowledge is there. So if I have the right knowledge, then problem starts disappearing. So we want to go deeper. So I just want to give you a brief outlay of what we are going to do in the following sessions. So the Eastern wisdom says that these teachings have been given as a tradition for the last 6,000 years. These principles have not changed. Means what? Unchanging principle means what? It is an absolute knowledge. Who again impart the knowledge to people? Two things can change ourselves. Second is the teacher. Teacher has to express. Teacher is incomplete without knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. That is what we see. And knowledge in the text is incomplete without the teacher. So that's how we say master and a disciple tradition. Now come to the intellect. Once you clearly understand that this is the journey, so we say that the first step has three elements at this moment, three elements: teacher, seeker, and the knowledge. You see, that's how we listen. Three things. So normally what happens, you are listening to the teacher and the mind is wandering somewhere else. But ask yourself where the mind is wandering. First question. Second question, why? We will take up other questions later. So this mind carries millions of impressions. It contains its impulsive nature, instinctive and habitual nature. And this mind runs. So what is the first question? Where it is running. It is either running in pleasure, seeking pleasure outside, and to avoid pain. Because the mind has a behavior contained in it. So when our dear friend John says, the fire alarm disturbed me, it is a specific behavior. I have to react. Mind is instinctive and impulsive. I'll repeat it even with John. He is understanding, so there is no problem. But the intellect knows why I should get disturbed. Knowledge, sound is from outside. It is not disturbing. It is not entering into my room. It is not meant for me. You see that? This is the knowledge. Can you find out the problem? The problem is that knowledge is here, behavior is here. We are not able to bridge the gap between the knowledge and the behavior. Did you understand? Knowledge, I have an intellect. Mind follows the instinctive and impulsive behavior. Intellect knows that noise of the fire alarm is not meant for me. Mind says, don't think about it. You are already disturbed. Behavior. Did you understand that? Behavior. One comes, it is a deposit, it is our saving account. Knowledge is here. We are not able to bridge the gap between the two. Have you seen a lot of people say, I understand everything, don't teach me? But when it comes to their behavior, they are gone case. You see? Understand that. So when we clearly understand the knowledge and the behavior, there is a big gap. And I have to bridge this gap. We will understand how to do that. Second reason why it is happening, because the mind by default is searching permanent peace and happiness, or to say happy self in the world outside. That is why mind goes outside. I will succeed in meditation if nothing in the world disturbs me. Is it possible? Is it possible? So what is possible to change that mind? That is a possible. So what happens in the very first step? Three elements are there. I'm coming to the intellect in the knowledge part. So first thing, I don't know, so let me know it. You are understanding in the intellect by learning the principles. You are a seeker and the teacher is there. So teacher, knowledge or wisdom, and the seeker are there. So when we are not focused, there is not a focused learning. The reason is mind is running outside. So simple. Why the mind is running outside? Because it knows by default that the happiness is outside, even when the intellect knows happiness is not outside. I move by passion. Now see, understand, you move by either passion. So what the mind needs? Dispassion. How simple, but not as simple as we think. So we are going. So that is the first step. Now, first step is done. I send you the audios. So where we three are together, you are listening. What exactly is the second step? Second step, you are alone listening. You are alone and listening and doing the practice. So when you are alone listening and doing the practice, your intellect should be active. It should take over the mind. That process is known as contemplation and reflection. second step, we say contemplation and reflect. If I do not think, now there is another aspect, so that you should be very clear to understand the second step. The second step, I can say, it is a self-disciplined thinking, reflecting on the principles. Why I use the word self-discipline? You will instantly understand when I give you an example. You want to learn physics because you are ignorant about physics. So the teacher of the physics says matter consists of atoms. An atom consists of electron, proton, and neutron. Three basic elements. We already know. Neutron is at the center, electron revolves round, and the neutron and the proton are at the center. You are not a self-disciplined thinker. You say that I'm an independent thinker. I don't believe this. There must be four particles instead of neutron, electron, and proton. That is very well settled. This we claim as an independent thinking, because now I am out of subject. What I'm learning, I'm out of subject. The physics teacher will say that this is your physics. This is not exactly the physics. Now apply the same example in our contemplation when you are listening and learning. When you are alone, you are educating your intellect first. In that process, you are educating your mind. You are alone. The mind says, I'm an independent thinker. Are you understanding that? That mind needs to be changed. Why? I have already explained. Behavior, instant impulse, reaction and behavior enters into the mind. It becomes totally undisciplined. The intellect has to rescue through contemplation, through reflection. Are you getting it? Look at the beauty of these principles. They have covered each and every aspect of human mind, consciousness, suffering, knowledge. That's why I left modern psychology. I said it's better to leave counseling profession. Otherwise, every time my client comes, I have to dig deep down. Oh, last week, how many times you have anxiety? How many times you reacted? How many times you became angry? That is what exactly is the psychotherapy. Did we talk anything like this in the Eastern wisdom? Our goal is to secure permanent happiness. We keep our focus. What happens when happiness is my nature? How it is clouded? How it is veiled? What to do to remove the veil? And this is what we are doing to bridge the gap between intellect and the mind, the knowledge and behavior. Because the intellect has to exert its resources on the mind, not the other way around. Mind, behavior, intellect, another point that is also very important. Intellect is always available. How can I say that? Prove it. After all, when you have an urge to clear the bladder, you go to the restroom. You don't land up in the kitchen. Intellect is available. I give you a very rough example. You are hungry, you go to the kitchen, you don't land up into the restroom. Intellect is available. When I meet you, you address by my name. Oh, you don't say that now I see a weird woman. Intellect is always available. You see, simple things. Because we are not educated to find the self discovery, therefore, in the beginning, self discipline thinking is required. You still remain independent. You are totally independent, but you allow the intellect to follow these principles. And once you follow it 100% after listening, close your eyes and then you sit and start thinking about it. Magic will happen. What is that magic? That mind which is troubling and triggering and keeping its past impressions in the fire of knowledge, that mind will calm down. One example, intellect, that fire of the knowledge is present in your intellect. You are practicing meditation. You have understood clearly that any movement of the mind is instinctive, impulsive. That is why it is bringing the thoughts that are like the weed needs to be pruned. Then what happens? The time comes in meditation, you never complain that thoughts are coming. They remain totally outside. Let it come, let it go. Good, bad, high, low thoughts. And what makes you disturbed? Just reverse this. The intellect goes into the background. The mind returns with the force of the behavior. My father should not have died. Really, mind? Can you control it? Knowledge is, can you control it? But that thought never comes to me. Do you see that? So when that thought doesn't come to me, then where I enter? Into the suffering. Who is to blame? I am. I allowed the mind to come in the front. Intellect goes into the background. It is very simple, but it is not so simple. That's you are ready to listen. That's why you all are seekers. So understand what we are going to do in the future sessions. We will understand the knowledge for the intellect. It should not remain dry. Why? We should have a clarity completely, freedom from the doubt, any sort of doubt. You can make a query, you can ask the question. So there is a clarity, there is an understanding. So doubt free knowledge. Knowledge of what? About my real self. Second step, I become a thinker now. I listen to it, I think about these principles so deeply, reflecting on it, so that the mind with its behavior do not dare to come in the front and create a veil over the intellect. So that practice in the mind, in the intellect, is known as viveka, discernment. I think I told you this story. So that discernment, when it loses its ground in the intellect, the mind takes over. Again, I told you this story. A guy came drinking vodka, first pack, in presence of his wife. He was in his home. Second pack, third pack, fourth pack. And after the fourth pack, he told his wife, "Oh, beautiful women, I don't know. Please take me to my home." He is already sitting in his home. That is how the mind takes over. So first two steps are clear. The step three that we are going to discuss and understand in detail, we have to apply this knowledge on the mind to change its behavior. That process is known as dispassion. First two steps, discernment. Translate discernment. In normal, if I explain it in simple language, it simply means to separate. For clarity, processing, separating, classifying. What is that? Neighbor's house. This is my house. I'm sitting in my house. That is neighbor's house. There is an, here I am. A clear clarity, doubt-free knowledge. No, you told me. So I clearly understand. Here is a pain outside, peace is inside. That clarity comes in the first two steps. Third step, behavior, the apply that knowledge. How to apply that knowledge? By the process of dispassion, we will understand what exactly is dispassion. Now, what happens in the fourth step, the past impressions, we say habits are hard to die. Huh? Something like that. There is a proverb, the habits are very hard to die. So there are some habits we have inherited from the entire human race for millions of years. What are they? A sense of fear, a sense of insecurity, a sense of sorrow in the suffering, a grief. So in the step 4, we take a look at it. We see in a right perspective what exactly is the fear, but we do it by the 6 smaller practices. They are known as the inner wealth of the mind. Have you heard about, we talk about inner treasure. Outer treasures, you might have a safe box. Tell me the exact location of the safe box that you have in your house. So you have a big safe, and then you open it, you have a small box, and then smaller, then the smallest, and there you keep your diamond ring. You have to tell me the exact location. Similarly, behind the past impression and the behavior and the instinct and the sorrow and the suffering lies the inner wealth. They are 6 in numbers that we will talk later. Just remember 6 in numbers. So once we awaken to those 6 treasures, the intellect not only has a total doubt-free knowledge powered by the discernment, but it is becomes so powerful that it exerts the pressure on the mind, so that the mind changes. When the mind changes, then the brain changes, which is a seat of the brain. Behavior changes, then we change our attitude, attitude changes our personality, personality changes our life. And in the sixth step, what happens is that that knowledge, no, that knowledge lives in your daily life, in your relationship. Your responses changes. Your not only your attitude, and that makes us a perfect seeker. And when we become a perfect seeker, the real journey starts. Think of it. So when you listen to it, contemplate and reflect on these six steps. You cannot ignore that you don't have an intellect. Otherwise, you should not have been listening to me. How simple it is. So become aware, have a confidence that human race has an intellect and it is available all the time. It is not available because of my mind. That contains the behavior, escape route of fear, and lot of stuff. That mind colors every event, every person in my family, in the society, in our daily living. And with that colored perception, without having a right knowledge, we perceive. When you perceive, you find mind says, if I get this, I will be happy. If I throw this, I will be happy. So mind is already outside, seeking happiness outside. Then nothing in the world outside can stay permanently. That the mind hides this. So hiding this is known as ignorance. Now the intellect is not available. The person is here with me. I'm happy. And the same person hurts you. Mind. That causes lot of suffering, fear, insecurity. So now is the time to do the practice. Let us start our journey. Eyes are closed.